In this week's video, we're going to talk to you discussing its great... In this week's video, we're talking about you. That's right, you. I'm going to show you 5 areas you can maximize your enjoyment of life in this third act. That's those of us who are 50 plus. We're talking self-enjoyment here. Let's get to it. In this third part of our 4-part series, Designing Your Third Act, we're taking a look at self-enjoyment as a process that we want to intentionally cultivate in order to get the most out of this season of life. Self-enjoyment doesn't just happen. We need to be intentional. Changes abound in our third act. Physical for sure, cognitive most likely, and even spiritual change is a possibility. We tend to look at this season, with retirement coming, with wide-eyed enthusiasm, thinking that we're just going to do whatever we want and enjoy ourselves. But the data show that this isn't a given. Rates of depression are high in first-year retirees. Financial struggle is common, and social dynamics tend to change greatly. Now, it's not all bad. It's just that you have to consider these potentialities, and therefore, plan your enjoyment. Self-enjoyment is, well, enjoying yourself. Some define it as self-satisfaction. Others define it as love of self. How would you define it? Let me know in the comments below. As we wind down our careers, many of us find we have a lot of time on our hands. What are we going to do with all that time? One of the reasons that rates of depression are high in first-year retirees has to do with this issue. If you don't know how to wind down and enjoy yourself, the road ahead could get a little bumpy. Let's look at 5 areas you can intentionally maximize your enjoyment of your third act. The first area we want to take a look at is how we entertain ourselves. Today, our choices are myriad. With Netflix, Showtime, and HBO, Spotify, Pandora, and Apple, and I'm not even going to get into Facebook and Instagram. There are so many ways we can entertain ourselves. This is both a blessing and a curse. It's obvious that the industry wants us to entertain ourselves to death, so be careful. We've normalized binge watching and screen time in general, and studies coming out are showing that this can produce feelings of anxiety and depression. One way to keep a lid on all this is by choosing your entertainment sources wisely. Ever notice how you tend to gravitate towards the same type of movies? My preference is for spy movies set in Europe. What are yours? Let me know. Feel like you've seen all the action and rom-com flicks out there? Yeah, I know, I'm right with you. Here's what you do. From time to time, choose something outside of your norm. How about the latest documentary on climate change or race relations? The same applies to books and music that you consume as well. For example, I have a Spotify channel that my son updates for me with selections that he thinks I would like and artists that he feels I should know about. It's always fun to see those new additions popping up on the list. Definitely takes me out of my 60s CSNY comfort zone. And you know, I like it. Another area that's often overlooked is our circle of family and friends. Both tend to shrink in our third act, so we have to be intentional here as well. If you have kids, be aware that you're moving into a new phase with them. I'm a firm believer that parenting never stops, but it does change in scope. As we move into our third act, we can become more of a consigliere to our kids. This is your chance to share all that wisdom that you've accumulated over the years. It's also a great time to seal all those great values, history, and traditions that you've instilled in them before they flew the coop. And of course, if you have a significant other, our third act becomes a great time to find new and exciting things to do with them now that you don't have the responsibility of having the kids around. Reading the same book and discussing it is a great activity. Spend some time doing something that they like to do, and you might find you like it too. And literally entertaining others in your home can bring lots of self-enjoyment. And lastly, but certainly not least on this list of family and friends, are the grandkids. There's no doubt that this is a third act top billing in the self-enjoyment category. But watch out, don't spoil them. Another great way to enhance your self-enjoyment quotient is to focus outside. I mean, literally outside. Turning to nature is not only very self-satisfying, it's healthy in every way, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Taking hikes is a great way to explore new territory. All you need is a pair of shoes. Consider exploring new places locally and even globally, which brings an educational element to the hike too. And finally, and this dovetails with the previous category, travel. Now, in a previous video on self-expansion, we talked about the kind of travel that has a focus on learning. Here we're talking about the kind of travel that's restorative. The unwinding, slowing down, unplugging kind of travel. We're talking about getting away from it all, especially in this day and age. We all need breaks from even the modest of schedules. Our always-on, screen-based lifestyle has left many of us frazzled and in need of a break. You deserve it. So, there's 5 areas where you can increase your self-enjoyment quotient. I hope you find your third act as exciting as I'm finding mine. Use this season wisely to become all you wanted to be and get to all you wanted to get to in life. Next week, in our final video of this series, we're going to be taking a look at self-care. Hey, you're missing out big time if you haven't seen the other parts of this series. You'll find them here. And if you're thinking of starting a passion project in your third act, you shouldn't do that without watching this video here. It's helped hundreds of people. I'm Paul Pichot. Thanks for watching.